Hi, my name's Jay Yadlovsky, and I wanted to give you another technique you can use to enhance eyes in your images. So in part one, we went through Lightroom and showed you a quick way that you can enhance the eyes in Lightroom using the adjustment brush there. And now we're in Photoshop CC, and here's another technique that we can use to help whiten the eyes, help get rid of some of the red veins and lines that you might see, as well as enhance the iris of the eye. Here's our before image. And here's our after image, and I'll show you how I got there. So the first thing we want to do is work on whitening up the eyes. So to do that, I'm going to zoom in so we get nice and close to see all the veins and the redness that might be in the eye. We're going to create a new layer. I'm going to title this Eye Whites. And I'm going to use the healing brush to take care of as many of the veins as I can. So I'm going to select the healing brush, and you want to use a pretty small size, something that's just a little bit bigger than the vein that you're trying to get rid of, and you want to sample next to it and then just paint over it. So we're going to hold down the option key here, which will let us sample part of the eye. I'm going to select there, and then we'll just go ahead and paint right over top of this guy and paint it away. Okay, we'll go through the eye, we'll go around and pull out as many of the veins as we can. You can see some coming here in towards the iris. It also looks like maybe this person has contacts. You can see a little ring right there over on this side a little bit, and you'll see it on the other eye as well. So we can try and take that out so that way we don't see the ring of the contact lens. So you just go through, you paint these out, clean them up. And you always want to keep resampling next to the areas where you're trying to remove the veins. Try and get rid of this, the edge of the contact here. Okay, so you see maybe that one didn't work out so good, so we could just undo those. Try sampling on this side. And that seems to work better. Okay, we're going to zoom out and go over to the other eye. Now a couple of things to notice over here. So not only do we see the red veins, which we'll take care of, we can see what looks like a contact edge, but you also have a hair coming here right through the whites of the eye as well as the iris, and you have a little eyelash there. So while we're here, we can just clean those up too using the same technique. So I'm just going to sample next to the vein here. Paint it away. One of the advantages of doing this on its own layer is that if it looks like it's too much or too white, you can always drop the opacity of the layer. So you always want to have as much control as you can over all of your edits and adjustments. So we'll go around here, try and paint away where it looked like there was a contact. Okay, so for the hair, since it's kind of running through a couple of things here, sometimes you might get a little smudging with the spot healing brush, but we'll try it. We'll just click here, we'll sample there, and then we'll just run right down the hair. We'll see what happens. Sometimes it works okay, sometimes it doesn't. So you can see it kind of got it a little smudged there, so let's try undoing that. We'll just try sampling on the inside this time and see how that works out. And you can see that that didn't work so well either. So you might just have to resample a few times. We want to get rid of this little eyelash right there. Sample and paint that out. And you can see sometimes when you get close to the edges it gets a little blurred. So if that does happen, you may need to use a different tool to get the job done. For example, in this case, let's just try the regular clone stamp tool. And we'll just sample right next to this. And just paint that away like that. Then we'll go back to the healing brush tool. and finish cleaning up the red in the eyes here. Okay, then once you're happy with the whites of the eyes, zoom out a little bit here, we'll just look at, so that's after we fixed the eyes, and that's before. So you can see it kind of cleans them up, smooths them out, got rid of the hair that was right over here. Okay, now if it seems like your retouch is a little too much, it looks too white, you can always drop the opacity back so that you can see a little bit of the veins in there if you wanted to. But in this case, I'm just going to leave that at 100% opacity. Okay, so now that we have the whites of the eyes fixed, the next thing we want to do is add a little extra light down here in the bottom of the eye. So we can delete that. We can make a new layer, and I'm going to call this kicker light. And what this is going to do is just help the eyes pop and help bring them out a little bit more. So to do this, the first thing we do is we create our new blank layer. Next, we want to draw a circle with our ellipse tool. Now if you click in the middle of the eye and you hold your Alt key, that'll allow you to drag out a circle from the middle there. And then if you also hold Shift at the same time, it'll keep it proportional, so you have a perfect circle. So you want to drag it out so it's just inside that darker edge around the eye there. I want to try and keep it just inside that. So here you can see we're pretty close, and if you're close you can use the arrow keys to just kind of nudge it into place afterwards. So now we want to make sure that we have white as our foreground color. We want to fill this circle with white, so we're going to hit Shift Delete. Fill, you can either use white actually or foreground color. I'm going to click OK on that. Now I usually drop the opacity of this layer a little bit just so I can see through it. I'm going to deselect our circle here by pressing Command D. Next thing I want to do is select our rectangular marquee tool, and you want to select about the top 2/3 of that white circle, so really just below the black part of the iris there. So select that and just hit delete so we can get rid of that. Then deselect your marquee here by pressing Command D. The next thing we want to do is select this layer again. So I'm going to come over to our layer here, and in the little preview here I'm going to Command and click, and that gives us the marquee back around that layer. So now that we have our marquee selected and we're still on our marquee selection tool, now what we want to do is bump this selection up a little bit. We want the white to stay where it is, but we want to take the selection and bump it up a little. So as long as you have your marquee tool selected here, you'll be able to move just the selected area. So you can see here I can move it around anywhere I want. So I'm just going to undo that because all I want to do is pull it straight up so we have like a crescent shape down here on the eye. So I'm just going to press Shift and up a few times. Okay, so let's see, went up Shift and I pressed up twice in this case. So now you can see we have a little crescent shape down here on the bottom. So I'm going to hit delete, and maybe we'll even make that a little bit higher. So let me bump it up just a little bit more. Then I'll hit delete. I'm going to deselect this by pressing Command D again. And the next thing that we want to do is take this and blur it. So we're going to go up to our filters. We're going to go to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. So you could do around 2 to 3, 4 pixels, depending on the resolution of your image. Here I have 3, maybe we'll try 4 and see how that works out. So I'm just going to click OK. And you can see here it kind of softened it all up, blurred out the edges a little bit. The next thing we want to do is come over to our layers, and we want to change the layer style to soft light. So you can see that kind of lightens it up a little bit. We may even need to move it up just a hair, so I'm going to just bump it up a little bit. If we zoom out, you can see it looks like it's a little strong, a little heavy now. So the good part about the way we did it is that it's on its own layer, and we can drop the opacity back so that it doesn't look too strong. But before we do that, I'm going to bring that opacity back up to 100%. we want to copy this layer and bring it over to this eye. So that way we have the same light on both sides. So to do that, I have my little arrow tool selected here. I'm going to hold Option or Alt, which will allow me to copy the layer. And we're just going to bring it and put it right up over here. Okay, bump it up. Try and get it right where I want it. And you want to make sure you can still see that black or darker ring around the outside of the eye. And you want to make sure you don't get any of this effect into the iris of the eye, or I'm sorry, the pupil of the eye. So now that we have one on each eye, we like the positioning, it looks pretty good. What we want to do is combine these two layers, and I'm going to do that by pressing Command E, and that merges the two layers together. And now we can drop the opacity. Let's just try 50%, see how that looks. Okay, so it looks a little strong maybe still, but you can see how we're starting to get the difference there. Back it up, looks a little strong, so let's back it back to, try 40%. See how that looks. Maybe 30%. Just so it's not too over the top, you don't want it to be too much. You can kind of see it really kind of brings out a little more in the eyes there. Okay, so one final thing that you could do here if you want is to sharpen up the iris of the eye a little bit. So to do that, I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to come over here and select our Sharpen tool, and then up here under our options bar, we're going to use normal. Strength I'm going to use about 30%. I want to sample all layers. Now you could merge all these layers together and then just work right on that image, but for the sake of trying to work non-destructively, I'm going to try it on a new layer here. So I'm going to sample all the layers below that. And finally we want to check this box that says Protect the Detail, so that way we don't lose any detail in the eyes. So let's zoom in here. And what you want to do is just take I have a soft edge brush, and you just want to paint over top of the eye there. And you can see it start to really bring out the color in the eye, bring out the color and the clarity. Now the good part about doing it on its own layer is that we can always drop the opacity back if it looks like it's too much. You can do the same on this side. Just paint it in a little bit. And you can really see those eyes start to pop and really look pretty good. So here's before and after the sharpening. And like I said, it might even be a little too much, so we can always back it down a little bit. Let's just say we bring it back to 50%. Okay, so once you have your sharpening done, as we zoom out here, you see this is our final image here. Now you can see we've cleaned up the whites of the eyes, we've enhanced not only the sharpness of the iris here, but also added that little kicker light, which I think does a lot to really draw your eye to the subject's eye here in the picture. So just going back to, there's our original image, and you can see this is, not bad, nothing wrong with this. But once you clean up the eye a little bit and add in that extra little light, kicker light in there in the eyes, it really kind of helps bring them out even more. So I hope you have enjoyed this, I hope this was helpful, and I appreciate you for watching. Thanks.